Is Kohen a noun or a verb? Seems like a strange question and with an obvious answer. It's clearly a Kohen is a noun. And why does that even matter so much? But the truth is that it's not so obvious, and it might be a very important question for understanding what makes a Kohen, and in what sense are all of us, all of Klal Yisrael, Mamlechas Kohanim. Rav Hirsch comments on the pasuk towards the beginning of our parsha that the Bigdei Kahuna are designed for the impact they have on Bnei Aaron, on Aaron and his children. L'kadesho, l'chahanu li. Rav Hirsch points out that the word l'chahen is actually a verb. And we find similarly by Elazar that he is described as one who is mechahen, vayichahen Elazar. Rav Hirsch argues that the term l'chahen is actually a verb, meaning to serve. Rashi himself, when Rashi comments on the pasuk l'kadesho, l'chahanu li, Rashi says that the term kehuna is a lashon of sheirus, and he uses a French word which seems to imply the term service. A kohen is a servant, and just like a servant, yes, the word servant is a noun, but it's a noun deriving from a verb, to serve. What defines the servant is that he serves, so too what defines the kohen is that he serves. What that means, what that implies, apparently, is that when we think of a kohen, we think of a kohen as a leader, as one with prestige. But Rashi is implying, and Rav Hirsch argues, that the definition of the kohen, what makes him a leader, what makes him exalted above the rest of Klal Yisrael, is not just that he is not that he has more kedusha, and that alone makes him a person of higher status, but rather that he's designed to serve specifically. Rav Hirsch brings a raya from a Rambam. The Rambam, both in Hilchos Klei Mikdash Parak Hey Halach Yud Beis and in Perishah Mishnayos Yuma Parak Aleph Mishnah Beis, the Rambam brings a qualification of a halacha. The halacha is in the Mishnah in Yuma Parak Aleph Mishnah Beis that the Kohen Gadol is maktir berosh v'noto chelik berosh, meaning the Kohen Gadol is allowed in the Beis HaMikdash to perform any avoda that he would like, and to take any piece of a karba that he would like. So if the Kohen Gadol shows up one day and says, I want to be maktir the Ketores today, I want to be makriv this karban chatas today, I want to be makriv this karban asham today, he has the right to do so. And moreover, if the Kohen Gadol says, I would like to take this piece of a karban chatas, I would like to eat this piece of kadshe kadashim or kachim kalim, as the case may be, he is allowed to do so. One would think from that halacha alone that being the Kohen Gadol is a privilege that carries with it rights, that the Kohen Gadol is allowed to exercise over other Kohanim. However, the Rambam in both places, both in HaMishnah Torah and in Perishah Mishnayos, the Rambam makes sure to qualify, and it's based on Tosefta and Yuma, that the halacha that a Kohen Gadol is allowed to take a chelik barosh, that he's allowed to come and say, I want that karban, I want to eat the meat of that karban, it's only true with Kachrei Mikdash. It does not apply to Kachrei Gvul. A Kohen Gadol is not allowed, is not able to come and say, I want that money for the Pir HaBen, I want that Bechor, I want that Chala, I want that Shuma. He has no privileges over Kohanei Hedyot. He is the same as the rest of them. Rav Hirsch argues that the implication of this halacha that the Rambam emphasizes in both places is that being the Kohen Gadol doesn't give one greater rights per se, but rather greater responsibility. In the Beis HaMikdash, where there's avoda to be done, the Kohen Gadol is more responsible to perform that avoda. Achilas HaKarbanos in the Mikdash is a chelek of the avoda. It's part of the responsibility of the Kohen Gadol. Once we're talking about Kachrei Gvul, once we're talking about the matanos that the Kohanim receive, in that regard, the Kohen Gadol has no greater status than anybody else. All the Kohanim are meant to receive the matanos as a matana from Kadosh Baruch Hu, in exchange for their avoda, however the case may be. And yes, there is a special kedusha of Kohanim, but the Kohen Gadol has no greater rights. And what that shows us fundamentally is that all the Kohanim, they don't truly exist in order to have greater rights than the rest of Klal Yisrael. They have greater responsibilities than the rest of Klal Yisrael. They have greater responsibility to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to devote their lives to His service. That takes place in the Mikdash. Part of that service is to have a chelek of the food of the karban, and even outside the mikdash, they are provided for by the rest of Klal Yisrael. But no Kohen, not even the Kohen Gadol, should think that he has greater rights, that his prestige is to dominate over any other person. Given that that's the definition of a Kohen, that a Kohen primarily is a mechahen, he is a servant, he is a mishares, he is one who does service for Kadosh Baruch Hu, who is responsible to Kadosh Baruch Hu. It behooves all of us to ask ourselves, in what way are we a Mamlechas Kohanim? Rashi in Parshas Yisro, when Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu to tell Klal Yisrael that he wants to take us as a Mamlechas Kohanim, Goy Kadosh, Rashi says, what does a Kohen mean in that context? There it cannot mean a Mishares in the sense of the Beis HaMikdash. For we who are not Kohanim are not allowed to serve in the Beis HaMikdash. Rashi says, Sarim. Over there, the Kohen there means a Sar, a leader. We are a nation of leaders. However, we must put the two Rashis together. We must ask ourselves, if we are to be leaders, if we are to be a nation of prestigious people, how does that take shape? Through our greater responsibility. Not that we have greater rights per se than any other nation. We have greater responsibility to the nations of the world, and ultimately greater responsibility to HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. If we want to live up to our calling, to our mission as the Mamlechas Kohanim, it behooves us to look at the life and the lifestyle of the Kohanim, and even of the Kohen Gadol, to ask ourselves, in what way are we trying to be servants? Are we trying to have great responsibility to the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, much like the Kohanim in this week's Parsha?